What would your career look like if you had an extra hour a day to just think and plan and figure out your next bold move? What would your job look like if you actually stepped up and led the way that you want to lead? I want to talk to you tonight about what I call the Good Girl Groove, the triple G. The Good Girl Groove is based on years of conditioning that we've had about being good girls. And this is how it shows up at work. About 15 years ago, when I stepped into one of my first leadership roles, I was asked to increase the marketing budget, go figure, that rarely happens, and come to the executive team with the plan of how I was going to spend the money and, well, how much money I wanted, how I was going to spend the money, and what the return on investment would be. Very typical questions when you're talking about marketing dollars and how to spend that at a company. And they gave me 2 weeks to plan this presentation that I was going to deliver on increasing the marketing budget. And I am super excited about this because I'm a young manager, I'm new to leading my team, and I've just been told I can have more money to spend. I spent those entire 2 weeks focused exclusively on developing this presentation. I researched marketing plans and business plans and PowerPoint templates because I knew if this just looked perfect, they would be more bought in. I researched what our competitors were doing, what other marketing gurus were doing at the time to figure out what the best marketing strategies would be for the dollars. I literally dedicated 2 weeks of my life to putting this one proposal, this one plan together for a 45-minute meeting. And then I spent hours the night before rehearsing everything I was going to say, rehearsing what I was going to present, rehearsing answers to questions. I was trying to think of all the questions they might ask, rehearsing all the possible objections that I might get. And about 15 minutes into my presentation at that meeting, they started asking questions, which makes sense. But they weren't asking the questions I thought they were going to ask. And I'm standing there in front of this entire group, completely stuck. I'm feeling frozen because everything I had rehearsed is what's clogged up in my head. All the questions, all the objections, my presentation itself. And they're asking me questions that are taking me down this other path. And I didn't have any snappy answers because I wasn't prepared to actually think on my feet. I had prepared all this other stuff. So they looked at me and said, this isn't the right plan. You need to go back to the drawing board and come back to us with another plan, and now you have 2 days to do it. So 2 weeks worth of planning and thinking and overthinking and over planning just went out the window, and now I had 48 hours to come up with an entirely new marketing plan. So wake up call, right? All that work I did wasn't effective. Didn't help me. And that's what got me started thinking about the Good Girl Groove, right? What are these habits that we get into that we think are good habits? And that in fact probably were good habits when we first learned them. But at a certain point in our career, not so good anymore. They don't help us. They're not leadership habits. They're good girl habits. And the 3 key ones I wanted to talk about tonight are, 1, we are really, really good at figuring out what authority figures want and giving it to them. From being a little girl where our parents are teaching us to have good manners and be polite, to be kind and considerate and thoughtful of others, we are conditioned to smile and deliver what our parents want us to deliver. We get into a school system and the same thing happens, right? Our teachers have expectations for us. And if we deliver on those expectations, we get good grades. So now we learn how to look to authority figures to tell us what to do. We look to read them to figure out what they want. We learn how to deliver what they want by studying and planning and preparing. We also learn how to do research. We also learn, this is the third one, the third habit is how we look to external resources to validate ideas to validate proposals, activities, and plans. Because we feel that if we have those third-party resources, that third-party support, those experts who also agreed this was a good idea, it validates our idea, therefore it must be okay. Those are the 3 grooves we get stuck in consistently at work that keep us stuck, actually, that hold us back from actually stepping up and leading the way that we envision and that we want to lead. And then we get frustrated when it's our own habits that are keeping us trapped. So we do it now because of all this conditioning we had. I mean, this is how we were raised. This is how we were trained. So it just makes perfect sense that these are the habits we deployed. They made us successful up to a point in our career where we're actually being asked to step up and step out into leadership. What my executive team wanted from me 15 years ago wasn't the same marketing plan they could have gotten from any marketing resource. They wanted to know what my ideas were. They wanted to know what I thought about where we were in the market and how we could grow, about how we could stand out as a company. There was nothing of me and my ideas and my experience and my intuition in that plan, because I was so busy trying to make sure I had all my bases covered and that I had experts supporting my ideas and that I had the right kind of format and the right kind of template and that I rehearsed all these things that I imagined. I didn't say 70% of what I planned on saying. All imaginary conversations I rehearsed never came true. This is the Good Girl Groove. Welcome. So how do we break the rut? What are the things we need to do to break out of the rut of being in the groove of these 3 patterns? We have to break years of conditioning, which I know sounds scary, but it's doable and it takes practice, and it's about building a muscle and building new habits. And so I want to talk to you about the new strength you're going to be building, the new muscles you'll be exercising, and the new habits you need to consider to get out of this rut and break these habits. So first, the first one, right? This first one where we have become experts at reading a room, at reading other people, and trying to figure out, what exactly do you want? How do I deliver to you what you're really looking for? We need to invert that dynamic, and it's time for you to become the authority. You're it. You're the authority who's going to do 2 things that you may not be accustomed to. One is you're going to start challenging authority, meaning that if there's someone else in charge of the project, if there's a boss or an executive that you're working with, and you don't agree with a course of action or an opinion they have, there is a perfectly professional, polite, and non-contradictory way, non-aggressive way, we'll go with that, with a non-aggressive way of contradicting them, or I should say of putting your own opinion forward. We have to learn how to challenge authority in a way that's graceful and yet is firm and shows that you are also an authority. You can say to your boss, you can say to a peer, somebody leading a project or a group, I hear what you're saying and I completely understand where you're coming from. However, I have a different point of view, and let me explain what this is. There's nothing that's attacking. There's nothing aggressive in that approach. It's just about sharing your own perspective and owning your own perspective. The confidence to step up and say, I have enough experience, I've done enough work here, that I have an opinion that should be heard. You become the authority. You also learn how to influence others. Part of owning your own authority is learning how to influence others so that they see and understand your point of view and join your team. So step number 1 is you become the authority. Step number 2, so when we're talking about how much we prepare, and a lot of us are over-preparers and overthinkers. We're like OCD Boy Scouts. I don't know why the Boy Scouts are the ones who have the be prepared as their slogan. It should be Girl Scouts, because we be prepared and prepared and prepared. We are masters at diving in and looking for all the details, anticipating all the questions, and making sure we have all the answers, right? This is where, instead of preparing, we have to practice trust. We have to practice trust of our own voice, trust of our own experience, and trust that we can actually improvise on the spot. Leadership is a combination of preparedness and improvisation, thinking on your feet. We get super stressed when we walk into situations and we're like, I just have to know all the answers. I just have to know everything they're going to ask and then I'll be ready. You already know. You don't have to know everything they're going to ask. You don't have to know what all the objections are, because with your experience, with your intuition, with your knowledge and expertise, you have the answers. It's a matter of accepting the question and opening up your mind and trusting yourself enough to be able to answer on the spot, to improvise, to say, okay, I hear what you're asking me. Give me a second to think about that. And then share what is coming up for you. Trust that what is coming up in that moment as an answer is a perfectly viable, good answer. Part of the answer might end up being, I have to think about it. I have to go research that. But a lot of the answers that we deflect, we already know. You are in the position you're in, or you are stepping into a leadership position because you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the intuition. Trust it. So the habit, the muscle that you're going to work, the habit you're going to break is this one of constantly trying to prepare and over prepare, because I guarantee you that 60 to 70% of what you prepare you will never use. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. Instead, take your 30% of prepare time and then trust your voice. Trust that you're going to know how to respond in situations based on your experience and your intuition. Third pattern we have to break is this idea that we need external confirmation or validation of our ideas for them to be valid and real. And this is a different angle of what I just talked about a second ago, because this also comes back to trust. You have to trust your experience. You have to trust your expertise. You have the credentials. You have the year's experience. You know the people who are involved, and you have really good instincts and intuition. All of that is more than enough to put your idea on the table and say, that's a good idea. To put your idea on the table and claim it as your idea. Because when we go looking for that external validation, we do two things. One is we're constantly looking for other people to tell us that we're right, or that we're smart, or that what we're thinking about is good enough. Which means we're just finding support for an idea we already have, which dilutes the power of us and our own idea. When we're constantly looking for outside validation, it's the first sign that we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust what we're feeling. We don't trust what we're thinking. Second, it makes it way harder when that idea completely blows up and is super successful. You feel like a fraud because you're like, well, I actually stole that idea from somebody else. So we've talked a lot in the last week about imposter syndrome. This is one way we fuel our own imposter syndrome, is by not trusting our own ideas, by insisting on finding outside validation. And then when it works, we deflect the praise anyway. Say, well, it was actually their idea, I just took it. But when it fails, we totally take that on as it was all our fault. Ironically, right? We don't give credit where credit is due, but we'll totally take the blame where the blame is due. This is a muscle that needs to be atrophied. The new muscle is to focus inward and trust your intuition, trust your experience, and be willing to put an idea forward. So where step 2 in trusting your intuition was all about how do you respond in a situation, step 3 is move forward with intention and trust in yourself. Propose something new, do something different, offer something into the table or to the communication. That is you. And don't worry about finding out whether 10 people agree or there's an expert out there who's done the exact same thing. Put your ideas out there. They are valid. So the reason we need to break these 3 habits is because in order to be a leader, you have to take risks. That's part of the job. And I want you to think about the fact that leaders are not leaders because they succeed. And actually, success sometimes has very little to do with leaders, being a leader and stepping into leadership. It has to do with taking action. If you consider all of the men who were part of the 2008 financial crisis, right, where our economy blew up in 2008, it was men running financial services institutions who created the chaos in our economy that things blew up. Every one of those men who was head of some institution, some bank, some organization, today still has a high-powered, high-paying leadership job. Even though their failures rocked our economy to its core. Leadership is about leading. It is not about the number of successes or failures in your columns. It doesn't matter the number of checks you have in each of those columns. It is about choosing to step up and lead regardless of the outcome. When you think about all of these college commencement speeches, right, that personalities give, all these people became famous and they came from the School of Hard Knocks and they're famous now. What do they all tell you in their stories? Every single one of them talks about the number of failures they have faced, hardships, resilience, before they were successful at this one other thing. Leadership is not about success. It's not even about failure. It's about stepping up and taking the risk. It's about leading and trusting yourself and owning your voice. So, as we walk into the holiday week, and I know it's a holiday week and everybody's getting ready to tune out and take some time to hopefully bake some really delicious food and spend time with family as you can, I want you to think about the fact that your success is not tied to the number of failures you have. It's not even tied to the number of successes you have. It's tied to stepping up and being a leader. And being a leader means we can't be good girls anymore. It doesn't work. The good girl groove is not compatible with the leadership groove. Those are two different sets of tracks. So work some different muscles as we're heading into 2021. Let's start with becoming the authority. We know what we know. Own it. Speak it. Practice ways of gracefully challenging authority, of persuading people and influencing people to your authority. Practice using your voice and trusting your voice that as people throw questions at you, you can absolutely respond with this off the cuff. You do not have to plan and prepare for every question that's going to be thrown at you because you can't. It doesn't work. And 3, trust your intuition that as you're moving forward, as you step into leadership, as you step forward into projects, ideas, as you put proposals on the table, that what you know is enough. And with that, I want to wish you all a happy holiday week. Whatever you're celebrating, Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or winter solstice, whatever it is that you are celebrating this week, we have a long weekend, we have time off. Spend time with your family, spend time with your friends if you can, safely, right? We all wear the masks. But enjoy the downtime and give some thought to what you want 2021 to look like and how you want to lead in 2021, because at Dirty Girls, we're going to come up kicking with some great stuff for next year, and I want you all to be part of it. Thanks for joining me for Training Tuesday, guys. Have a fabulous week.